man. Another hot topic, man. More food to give out. Having a great morning, and I hope you guys are focused. Let's get right into it.
Work, the people around you, or even the struggles you see. The greatest battlefield is your own mind. Every limitation, every fear, every insecurity, every defeat begins not in your circumstances, but in your thoughts. If your mind is uneducated, your spirit can be powerful, your potential can be great, but your life will still be small, because your life will never rise higher than your thoughts. You cannot live beyond what your mind believes is possible. The mind is not just a place where ideas are stored. It is the workshop where your destiny is designed. That's why the most dangerous ignorance is not lack of schooling. It is the lack of mental discipline. You can have degrees and still be a slave to fear. You can have certificates and still be poor in vision. Because education is not information. It is transformation. You can read 1,000 books and still think like a victim if your mind is not renewed. The Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That means your entire life is waiting for your mind to catch up with what God already put inside you. You see, God never created you to be defeated, but He gave you a mind so you could manage victory. That's why the enemy doesn't have to destroy your body. He just needs to occupy your thoughts. If he can poison your perspective, he can paralyze your purpose. Many people lose battles that never even began simply because they surrendered mentally. You cannot pray your way out of what you continue to think yourself into. If you keep imagining failure, your faith will have no foundation. That's why it's not enough to pray for blessings. You must train your mind to receive them. If your mind rejects success, even God can't make it stay. Your thoughts are like soil. Whatever you plant in them grows. If you plant fear, fear multiplies. If you plant faith, faith expands. Whatever dominates your thoughts will direct your future. So when you pray for change, make sure your mind is educated enough to handle it. An educated mind doesn't mean a proud mind. It means a trained, disciplined, spiritually aligned mind that can filter what enters it. Your thoughts are gates to your destiny, and every gate needs a guard. When you allow toxic thoughts, resentment, doubt, jealousy, comparison to be unchecked, they take root like weeds and choke your vision. That's why you must become a guardian of your mental garden. If you don't train your mind, the world will train it for you. The media will shape your fears, people will shape your opinions, culture will shape your values, and before long, you'll live a life that doesn't even belong to you. You'll become a product of what you consume instead of a producer of what you believe. A mind without discipline becomes a slave to distraction. It starts strong but never finishes. It dreams but never decides. It plans but never produces. And that's how many people die full of potential, full of dreams, full of purpose, but empty of results. You see, your mind is like a steering wheel. Your emotions are like passengers, but your spirit is the driver. If your mind is not educated to obey your spirit, your emotions will take control and drive your life into chaos. That's why some people know the truth, but still live in bondage. They have spiritual understanding, but mental immaturity. God can't bless you beyond the level your mind can manage. If your mind is fearful, God can't trust you with influence. If your mind is undisciplined, He can't trust you with authority. Because blessings without mental capacity become burdens. That's why many people pray for promotion, but are never prepared for it. They want success, but their thinking is still small. They ask for opportunity, but their mind still doubts their worth. So God waits until your mind is educated enough to handle what He's already planned to give you. Education of the mind begins with awareness. You must first recognize that your thoughts have power. Every day, you are training your mind either consciously or by default. Every word you repeat, every fear you entertain, every image you imagine, it's all programming your belief system. And your belief system becomes your reality. If you keep thinking you can't, your mind will find evidence to prove it. If you believe you're not worthy, your behavior will align with that belief. That's why you can't afford to think carelessly. Mental laziness is spiritual suicide. A person who refuses to think critically will always depend on others to interpret life for them. You must train your mind to think above the noise, to think with purpose, to think with clarity, to think with truth. Because the moment your mind aligns with your purpose, your entire life starts to shift. You must also understand that your mind is a battlefield of two voices, the voice of faith and the voice of fear. One tells you what God promised. The other reminds you of what people said. Yeah. One pushes you toward destiny, the other drags you toward defeat. Every day you must choose which one you'll listen to. The education of your mind is no one-time decision, it's a daily discipline. You must constantly feed it truth until truth becomes its default setting. Because whatever you feed your mind becomes its appetite. If you feed it negativity, it will crave more negativity. But if you feed it faith, it will hunger for possibilities. That's why great people don't think about problems. They think about purpose. They don't focus on what's missing, they focus on what's possible. Because they've trained their minds to interpret challenges as opportunities. An educated mind doesn't panic when life gets hard. It doesn't crumble when people leave. It doesn't fear when the economy shakes. Because it understands that every storm is a test, every pain is a teacher, and every delay is a design. When your mind is educated, you stop reacting emotionally and start responding spiritually. You stop asking, why me? And start declaring, try me, because you understand that what's happening to you is actually happening for you. The mind is the tool that turns trials into training. When you educate your mind, you stop seeing problems as punishment. You start seeing them as preparation. The difference between those who quit and those who conquer is not strength, it's mindset. Do you know why most people never walk into their destiny? Because they never renew the mental picture of who they are. They keep seeing themselves through the lens of failure, rejection, or comparison. They keep replaying the same old story, and their life becomes a reflection of it. You cannot become new while thinking old. If you want to walk in freedom, you must first think in freedom. That's why transformation begins not with environment, but with mindset. God can change your situation in a second, but if your mind is still stuck in the past, you'll bring old habits into new blessings. That's why he often allows us to go through seasons of testing, not to destroy us, but to develop our thinking. Because he knows if he can educate your mind, he can elevate your life. When your mind is educated, you no longer need validation to move forward. You stop waiting for people to approve what God already called you to do. You stop explaining your vision to small thinkers. You stop doubting your own progress because someone else doesn't understand it. You become anchored in truth, not emotions. That's the power of mental education. It creates internal stability in an unstable world. When your mind is trained, storms can come, but you remain calm. People can betray you, but you still have peace. Things can fall apart, but you still have focus. Because you've learned that your power doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. To educate your mind means to take responsibility for what you believe. To no longer accept every thought as truth. To challenge your assumptions. To ask, is this thought helping my destiny or hindering it? You must interrogate your own thinking. Because many times, your greatest enemy is not the devil, it's the mental patterns you've accepted as normal. Fear is a thought, doubt is a thought, worry is a thought. These are not realities, they are choices. And you have the authority to replace them with truth. Every time a negative thought arises, you can choose to reject it and replace it with faith. That's what it means to educate your mind. You become intentional about what you allow to live in it. And don't forget, your mind learns through repetition. One thought repeated enough becomes a belief. One belief repeated enough becomes a conviction, and convictions shape your reality. So if you want to overcome anything, start by teaching your mind what truth looks like. When your mind is full of truth, lies lose power. When your mind is full of light, darkness has no authority. When your mind is full of faith, fear has nowhere to live. This is how you win every battle, by mastering the battlefield of the mind. Because once your mind is educated in truth, no storm, no failure, no betrayal, no loss can ever defeat you again. You can never overcome what your mind has not accepted as conquerable. Everything that looks impossible is only a reflection of the limits of your current understanding. The truth is, life doesn't get easier. You get stronger. But strength begins in the mind. Every great victory starts as a thought, and every great downfall begins with doubt. Your outer world is simply a mirror of your inner conversation. If your mind is filled with excuses, your life will produce limitations. But if your mind is trained with discipline and faith, it becomes a weapon that no circumstance can defeat. Mind is not meant to be a cage for your fears. It's meant to be a classroom for your growth. Until you educate it, you'll keep repeating lessons life is trying to teach you. Some of the hardest seasons you face are not punishment, they're education. Life will keep presenting the same storm until your mind learns the lesson behind it. Once you understand that, pain stops feeling like prison and starts feeling like preparation. Most people want breakthrough without breakdown, growth without challenge, success without struggle. But that's not how true transformation works. You must teach your mind to see beyond the surface. You must train it to see the hand of purpose even in the middle of chaos. When your mind becomes educated to recognize divine patterns, you stop complaining about trials and start interpreting them. You begin to understand that what you call problems are often the raw materials of your promotion. Every test carries a teaching. Every delay hides a direction. Every loss carries a lesson. The uneducated mind only sees pain. The educated mind sees process. Your ability to overcome anything is not in the power of your hands, but in the posture of your mind. That's why God renews minds before he changes seasons. If he promoted you without renewing your thoughts, your old mentality would sabotage your new position. You can't step into a promised land with a slave mindset. You can't manage abundance with scarcity thinking. You can't live in peace while feeding on chaos. That's why educating your mind is a spiritual act. It's you taking authority over your thoughts and aligning them with truth. It's you refusing to let temporary circumstances define eternal identity. Because your mind was never meant to be controlled by the environment. It was meant to control the environment. When you begin to educate your mind, you stop reacting emotionally and start responding intentionally. You stop being driven by fear and you stop being guided by purpose. Because your thoughts determine your emotions and your emotions direct your actions. If you can educate the thought, you can control the reaction. Most people lose battles not because they lack ability, but because their emotions overrule their reasoning. The educated mind learns how to pause before reacting, how to observe before speaking, how to discern before deciding. That's mental maturity. It's when you understand that not every thought deserves your attention, not every voice deserves your reaction, not every conflict deserves your energy. Education of the mind also means learning to feed it the right substance. You cannot expect peace when you constantly feed on fear. You cannot expect faith when you digest doubt every day. Whatever enters your mind repeatedly becomes your mental diet, and your diet determines your direction. If you keep listening to negativity, your mind will normalize it. If you keep surrounding yourself with complainers, your perspective will shrink. But if you feed your mind with faith, wisdom, and truth, it will start producing stability. Just like the body needs food to stay strong, the mind needs truth to stay free. Freedom is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of understanding. When your mind is educated, even when life hits you hard, you still stand firm because you understand purpose behind pressure. The reason many people stay stuck is because their mind keeps replaying old programs. You cannot overcome the future while your thoughts are still tied to the past. Some people are free physically but prisoners mentally. They left the old season, but they brought the same mindset with them. That's why nothing changes. You must delete old mental files that no longer serve your destiny. You must stop repeating the stories of what hurt you and start reprogramming your mind with what healed you. Your past is not a life sentence. It's a lesson. But if you don't educate your mind to interpret it that way, it will become a chain. An educated mind doesn't avoid struggle, it masters it. It doesn't deny pain, it defines it. It doesn't pretend problems don't exist, it simply refuses to give them power. Because your focus decides your future. When your mind is focused on truth, it sees possibility where others see pain. It sees lessons where others see loss. It sees faith where others see fear. That's the mindset that makes overcomers. Because real victory is not the absence of difficulty, it's the presence of understanding. You see, God doesn't remove challenges because he wants you to learn how to think through them. The test of your faith is not how loud you pray. It's how you think when the prayer seems unanswered. Can you still believe when everything contradicts your belief? Can you still trust when every door seems closed? That's where education of the mind shows its value. Because when your mind is renewed, your faith no longer depends on evidence, it depends on revelation. You start to understand that storms destroy you, they expose your structure. Trials don't break you, they build you. The educated mind doesn't fear the process because it knows the process is proof of purpose. Sometimes you must teach your mind to think differently than how you feel. Feelings are temporary teachers, they are not truthful masters. If you always follow emotion, you'll always drift away from purpose. The educated mind learns to separate temporary emotion from eternal truth. It can feel fear but still choose faith. It can feel pain but still choose purpose. It can feel pressure but still choose progress. That's the power of an educated mind. It gives you control over what controls others. Don't underestimate how powerful your thoughts are. Every change you want in life begins as a decision to think differently. You can't pray for victory while rehearsing defeat in your thoughts. You can't expect peace while meditating on problems. You can't grow while holding on to limiting beliefs. You must constantly teach your mind what truth sounds like until lies become unrecognizable. It's not enough to memorize scripture. You must internalize it. Truth is not powerful until your mind accepts it as reality. That's when you start living from the inside out instead of the outside in. When your mind becomes educated, your language changes. You stop saying, I can't, and stop saying, I will. You stop saying, I'm not enough, and start saying, I'm equipped. You stop saying, this is possible, and start saying, with God, all things are possible. The language of your mind becomes the language of faith, because words are the evidence of what your mind believes. Educated minds speak life, even in death. They speak peace, even in chaos. They speak purpose, even in pain. That's why your words matter. They are the voice of your thoughts. You must also understand that mental education requires repetition and resistance. Just as muscles grow under pressure, so does the mind. Every challenge you face is a mental gym. Every disappointment is an exercise in endurance. Every failure is training for greater wisdom. Stop running from the lessons life brings and start learning from them. When you face hardship, ask your mind, what is this
Peace
teaching?
of love, 561. We live right now, man, giving out nothing but food. We ain't giving out nothing but food, man. We know in this world, it's hard to put right on people when they distracted by what they feel like is winning. But in the reality, when they look up, they're losing. So it's hard to get to those kind of people today. You know what I'm saying? Because we live in a time where even young kids make you accept the fact that we are all God's children and we are all here for a purpose. Whether it's your child or you're a school teacher, you got all those kids, and it maybe seem like you can't get through to those kids, right? But your job is to be a teacher. You got to wake up and understand that we are all God's children. And for the ones that is behind us and we're before them, it sometimes our position ain't what it is, to those people. You know what I'm saying? So it's always good to have all type of alienated knowledge to absorb. To when you get in these situations like this, man, you automatically know that, man. You know what? God got hold of you. God has you right now, like He got me. You see what I'm saying? It make you just really understand that you ain't got no eyes to judge, man. You see what I'm saying? Because a lot of you get people that get found in situations where they say you're wrong, you got to go to jail. Well, you're wrong, you fight. It's a lot of situations what make people judge you, but a lot of people forget that we are all God's children, young, old, in the middle. It doesn't matter. It's just it's hard to accept that you're mad because you're mad at something somebody did or somebody said or something like that, man. It's a position that God gave us in this life, man. It's a right and a wrong. It's a positive and a negative. It's a do's and the don'ts, man. And hey, man, living this life, when you finally wake up and understand that, excuse me, it has to be this way, then you'll start understanding that your knowledge is far greater than what that you think it is. It's far greater than in high school or college, or even the manager at your job. Your knowledge is far greater than that. It's so much more, man. And you got to be alienated in your knowledge, bro. You just can't be stagnant and thinking that you're fighting for something that really means something that it don't. But yeah, man, it's peace and love 561. We live right now. Just giving out some food, man. I give out food. If you guys don't know, man, like, comment, subscribe, and share. I'm new to the internet. I'm just doing what God sent me to do. You see what I'm saying? And hopefully, you know what I'm saying. I can reach whoever could be reached, and I can get some great feedback, so I can learn. Because I'm a type of person that like to learn, observe, play chess a little bit, and you know what I mean. Just see what's the outcome, man. We somewhat ways, man. We blessed with another 24 today. And from my knowledge and my experience, man, we got 100 years to try to do it. If your 100 years ain't up, man, keep going, man. Keep living, keep elevating, man. Keep learning, keep experiencing, man. That's all I can tell you, man. Because God give you another 24 to try to do it. I advise you to do it, man. Keep going, keep pushing, keep learning, man. And That's my food for this segment right here, man. I'll be back at you guys whenever. You never know when I'm coming, but I'm gonna keep coming though. I'm gonna keep coming, man. Peace and love. 561. We live. We lit. I'm coming back at you.